Yeah, it sounds weird, but I can hear you.
Um,
Okay, there we go. It sounds better now.
Perfect, 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 perfect.
Just
Um,
occasionally it sounds gravelly. I don't know if it's my connection or what. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just going to assume that the internet hates us, and we're gonna have to
Yeah,
defeat
I
the
mean,
internet to make this happen.
yeah,
All right, Brody Adams, sir, the man, the myth of the nasty gentleman. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Um, I'm excited for this weekend. Uh,
So let's talk about your match this weekend in Palmer. Who are you wrestling?
we are taking on the Amazing Graysons. They are a brother duo from New Jersey or somewhere on the East Coast. They may not be from New Jersey, but that's where WrestlePro is based. So they are collectively weigh barely more than one of the Nasty Gentlemen. So it should be a lot of fun. They're they're little guys, so there's going to be a style contrast for sure. It's going to be little fast guys versus big fast guys.
Okay. So have you had an opportunity to prepare and see what they do and how they move and think about how you're going to compete with that?
Yeah, I watched a couple videos so far uh, of them, and there's a six-man tag that they did, and then just a regular tag match. And so I can see what some of their signature moves are, and one of them entails picking somebody up, and so that should be a lot of that should be interesting. Um, so, but they're definitely fast, and so if they're able to like, I don't know, stay on the run, like and stay out of me and Jack's grip, then they stand a really good chance. But once we get a hold of them, it's going to be hard for them to pull out the win. There is a definitive size difference.
Okay. Now, in the match with smaller opponents, like what are some of your immediate thoughts going into that?
Um, I try and get them cornered and grounded, and but I also try and utilize some of I don't know. I can do some flippy stuff for a big guy, and so I try and utilize some of that. With a smaller guy, it can be hard because it's easier for them to move out of the way. So a big thing I'll try and do is keep them grounded and start stretching them out. I'll grab a body part, whether it's their head, neck, arm, back, leg, whatever, and I'll just focus all my attention on that.
Now, Jack is British, if I'm not mistaken. You live in Palmer or in the area. Do you feel like you two have a distinct home field advantage?
Oh yeah. Uh, without trying to sound too cocky, Palmer is our town, and like he's been wrestling up here for 5 years. I've been wrestling here for 8 years. The last 5 years has been in the heart of Palmer at their community center, and he's lived in Palmer the majority of the last, I think, 15, 16 years, however long. He visited up here as a kid, but he's lived here for quite a while, and he lives in Palmer, and so I feel like we have the home field advantage for sure.
So, do you think, in your experience, is there a major difference between East Coast wrestlers, West Coast wrestlers, down south, and what are those differences?
I don't. I feel the wrestlers I've encountered from like Southern California, they hit harder than anybody I've ever wrestled in my life, and they're aiming to like end the match as quick as possible. They're swinging for the fences. Like every hit is a knockout. Some of the guys that wrestled on the East Coast are a bit more technical, and especially some of their smaller guys. Wrestle Pro, their roster is just full of technical wrestlers, and there are a couple bigger guys like Falaba who I've shared a ring with, and KM, and they do have some bigger individuals, but like they're champions right now. are just probably some of like the best technical wrestlers you'll ever find. And so I don't think it really depends on the region. I think it depends on the level that they're wrestling at. And WrestlePro tends to wrestle at a national level. They have fans all over the United States, especially once they ventured into Alaska. They made a whole new fan base, and so all their guys are on another level. Like they're without a doubt, their guys could compete with the mainstream WWE, AEW, places like that. Like,
Well,
yeah, so
looking at their roster and who they're bringing up and who they've brought up in the past, that is their roster. They are AEW guys. They are WWE guys. And that is one of the things that made me a fan, is they're drawing from different pools of talent. And you know, it's cool that, like, for Soldotna, we have Swoggle versus Janela, and you know, like, this is very cool. Like, this wasn't happening before WrestlePro started doing this.
Yeah, that is, like, because that's a unique match. Like, where else are you going to see that match? You know, and Swoggle has wrestled up here before at the first WrestlePro Alaska show, and you know, he doesn't wrestle other people his size. He wrestles people that are like trying to find the, like, you know, the right way to say it. You know, like, he doesn't do midget wrestling. He does wrestling. And, you know, so it's interesting to see him wrestle someone like Joey Janela and show that, like, he can hold his own against an opponent of any size.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, where else are you going to see Joey Janela versus Swoggle? Like, so.
It's cool. I've had friends on the East Coast, friends in Maine, shout out and like give me their predictions on how they think that match is going to go. And so this is something that we're being treated to up here, that they're just not going to get down in the lower 48. Certainly not on at the level that WrestlePro has brought it in the two previous events. Now, the first event, Here Comes the North, if I'm not mistaken, you guys were on that. Or Welcome to the North. I cannot remember the name of it. That episode.
The North Will Remember.
The North Will Remember. Now, you guys were on that card.
Yes, and besides, like, the match was good, and it was like a test because they didn't know there was wrestling in Alaska before they came up here. They were planning on bringing, like, their own crew, you know, and then they found out there was wrestling up here, and so they did kind of like a tryout with Sanjay Dutt, who's someone I followed for a long time, you know, and so
shout out to Sanjay.
That was a cool one because what?
Shout out to Sanjay. I remember when he came out with Matt to
it was really cool. He did a seminar and a tryout for us, you know, with the local guys, and then, you know, the match itself at WrestlePro at the North Will Remember, to have Mick Foley was their guest of honor for that one. And for him to sit there and watch my match and then come over to me and Jack after the match and give us his feedback, that's like, man, it's unforgettable. So not only am I making awesome memories wrestling as a fan, or what, you know, some people call it as a mark, like, I'm making memories, some of the people I've been able to meet, you know, like, and a really funny moment that happened is after our match, he came up to me and Jack, gave us some feedback, and as he walked away, Jack acted like he was gonna faint, like, because we just got feedback on our match from Mick Foley. Like, you know, we also wrestled inside of a place that we'd watched wrestling in. Like, I've been to Sullivan Arena 5 or 6 times to watch WWE, you know, or other wrestling that came up here, and then for me to turn around and wrestle, like, that's wrestling at my Madison Square Garden, you know, like, it's just a cool experience, like, getting all kinds of cool opportunities in the ring and outside of the ring.
And that's being able to come up and see you guys have that experience, and then for me to share it with my sons was also very special. So I brought it was just one of my kids for the first WrestlePro to come up here. And then all of them came for the second one, and they brought friends. Like it was such a cool experience the first time that we were grateful to do it the second time. And that's one of those things that I can say to anyone listening who hasn't been to an event, whether it's in Soldaten or whether it's in Palmer or whether it's in Anchorage. These are fun things to bring your kids to have a bonding experience. But from a wrestler perspective, what is it to the layman? Like, explain what it means to get feedback on your match from Mick Foley.
Yeah, I mean, he sat there and watched the entire show, which is really cool. Like, he didn't have to do that. The dude's a Hall of Famer. Dude is a legend. He could have come out, did his piece, then left and come out. Like, he came out for a couple parts of the show. He was out at the ring, like I think at the beginning and the end, he was out there. And so he could have just chilled in the back, but he sat there and watched the entire event. And so, like, for him to not, someone wasn't like, hey, what'd you think of their match? He came up on his own and gave us some feedback, and which was just like, it's kind of validating in a sense, because like, people don't know there's wrestling in Alaska. Like, no matter how long I've been wrestling up here or how many people come up here and visit, like, there's still people that live in the same city that don't know there's wrestling up here. It's just, the word doesn't get spread like enough. And so for a Hall of Famer like Mick Foley to come up to two dudes who, like, we came out of the Alaska wrestling system. Like, we're not trained by someone else. We're trained through Alaska wrestling. And for him to give feedback, and like, honestly, I was so starstruck, I don't remember the feedback he gave, but he just gave us some feedback on our match. I might have to ask Jack, like, because I don't remember what he said. I was mind blown by the fact that he was taller than me, because I didn't realize he was that big. Like, he's like 6'6". He has to be. Like, it's ridiculous. He doesn't look that big on TV. So, but it was just mind blowing, man. It was a cool moment. Like, and then Matt Plant, like, he gave me feedback on the match and like compared me to Mick Foley, the way I wrestle. And so I was like, dude, like, it's just it's a cool experience. Like I'm gonna remember that forever. I may not remember what he said, but I had a conversation with Mick Foley after my match. Like, so
that's thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's really cool. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, not just this event in Palmer and previous events, is one of the films that really developed my my love for professional wrestling in the same way that a film like Thrashin' or Gleaming the Cube does for skateboarding, or Rad for BMX. It is the late 80s masterpiece starring an unknown Zeus who went on to be Debo, and the man recognized by most guys our age as the star that got us into wrestling, Thunder Lips himself, Mr. Hulk Hogan. And that film is No Holds Barred. Well, first off, the matches. I want to ask, because we've spoken a little bit about your matches. What did you think about some of the matches in that film?
I liked the opening one that with Jake Bullitt, because that guy's an actual wrestler. It's not just like another actor. That's Axe from Demolition, and so I thought it was entertaining. They did a good job of, like, even though it's a short sequence, they did a good job of psychology, because like almost immediately, Rip is getting beat up, and it's like, oh man, like it told a good story of like what they do with Hulk Hogan in wrestling anyways, that he gets beaten down to the ground and then he hulks up, comes back, and he wins, so I like that they didn't have Hulk Hogan finishing people with the leg drop. He had like a different finisher for this character. And so I think as short as the matches are, they do tell a good sense of psychology in the opener. Excuse me. Then I guess the other big one is just the finale match, and there are a couple others like
The bar fights.
Stan Hansen's character, Neanderthal.
Okay.
Like when it first introduces him and they're at the bar and everything, like I think they did a good job there of he wasn't Stan Hansen. Like Rip is Hulk Hogan, 100%. Like there's, but the other characters, the wrestlers that are in there are not themselves. They're doing something different.
How many of those dudes were wrestlers?
Say that again?
How many of those guys were actual wrestlers?
So in the beginning, Jake Bullet, that's a wrestler. That's Bill Eadie, which is Axe from Demolition. And then the guy with the spit cup, that's Neanderthal. That's Stan Hansen. And then Lug Wrench Perkins, he's the guy with the big, huge wrench that fights Zeus. He's a former wrestler from WCW named Jeep Swenson. He was in the Batman movie that had Poison Ivy in it, where they create Bane.
Okay.
Like that Jeep Swenson is the big version of Bane. And Jeep Swenson was also in a match in WCW where they brought Zeus back as the Z Gangsta. Like it's Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage versus like 8 dudes, and 2 of them are Zeus as Z Gangsta under a different name, and then Jeep Swenson his name was the Ultimate Solution, but they're like, that's kind of racist, and so they changed his name to something else. So there's a handful of wrestlers, and like to hype up No Holds Barred, Zeus actually did have a couple matches. Like he wrestled, I think, at an event just based around Survivor Series or based around No Holds Barred, and then he wrestled at Survivor Series. He was in a couple tag matches. So
do you remember those?
There's a handful of wrestlers in there.
I don't remember anything from him before that or anything like after the hype. Like it was like he went from Zeus to Debo.
Yeah.
My childhood.
They did some hype around the movie. Yeah, I don't know. I would have to look it up to see what he did before No Holds Barred and Friday. I mean, I know roles he did later on. He has a small role in Dark Knight. He plays the president in Fifth Element. Like, so he has a couple small roles. He kind of just pops up. Like he popped up on Walker Texas Ranger. Like, he has so many credits to his name, but he doesn't really have a whole lot of starring roles.
I mean, those are the 2 things that I wish he did more roles like the president in the Fifth Element.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his part in Dark Knight is they have the 2 ferries that one ferry controls the other one, like the bomb on it. Like, so they can choose to blow up a ferry full of citizens or a ferry full of prisoners. And the ferry full of prisoners, Zeus takes the detonator and throws it out the window. And so like he has a pretty, like, it's a small role, but it's an important part.
So before we going too far into Tommy Lister's filmography, there were some things that I wanted to touch on. Part of it was Hulk Hogan's wardrobe in this film. I wish that I lived in the universe that like this film was based in, right? The one where wrestlers, like, they have to go around doing their daily stuff dressed like they have a match. Like Hulk Hogan, Rip in this film would have to go to the grocery store to buy milk dressed like he's Rip going to a meeting. Like, that would be a fun world to live in.
Yeah, he's ready to go at all times in that movie.
Like, I don't know. He seemed like it was a good breed, like bleeding over of like Macho Man Randy Savage's wardrobe in that regard. Like, there was a lot of like spandex, a lot of stuff that went on to become Under Armour.
Yeah, like the the like tight pants and shirts and the big old belts and like yeah. Like I mean, if you see other wrestlers outside of that movie from that time frame, they don't dress like that. They might wear like jeans and stuff, but yeah, his wardrobe is it's out there. So,
but in that
like
universe,
what
it
you had
seems
said
totally normal.
before, like what you said, like you couldn't dress like Rip and then like go to a kid's charity, like so it's weird.
Now the TV executive in the film, like he has a really unnatural. He's the catalyst for everything. Everything starts moving because of his unhealthy obsession with big wrestlers. Like that dude gets really angry about stuff that's on a different network. He's absolutely obsessed with the idea of doing as much permanent emotional scarring to Rip as possible if he can't get him to join his team. What do you think that stems from? Like, you're a father.
Like, oh man, I don't. It's unhealthy, that's for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, he has someone attack the lady that is like Rip's agent or whatever she is.
She was some sort of like talent promotional thing, but she was also a corporate prostitute, apparently sent by the evil TV executive.
Yeah, that's right. Because she was supposed to go seduce Rip.
Yeah, and she couldn't do it because Rip's not into that sort of thing. Rip has a roommate. His adult brother lives with him.
And the old guy, the old coach too.
Charlie.
It seemed like he lived with them too. Charlie, yeah.
Coach Charlie.
Yeah, he's a little handsy with his brother.
Yeah.
So,
it was
I don't know that.
I don't know if you saw the cut, but like the original cut, when he jumps into Rip's arm, Rip grabs him by the caboose. He holds him by the caboose. They cut away, and then he goes back, and his hands are on his upper back. Rip's a strong man. Those hands didn't slide up.
Yeah, no, like it happens for like that long. He jumps up, and he has like hands full of butt cheeks, and then like it cuts, and his hands are somewhere else. I saw it. It happens right at the beginning.
Yeah, but it also like it took a lot of elements from Rocky, because you did have Charlie, the older coach, who ends up getting assaulted by Zeus, but he's got a weird Charlie, the coach, has a relationship with Zeus. Zeus killed a guy in a match.
Yeah, and they don't go into that.
Yeah, I want that origin story. If we're gonna give enough time and energy to this film, and give it the credit it so rightly deserves, then maybe, just maybe, perhaps they give us that doggone origin story.
Yeah, like what's the history between Charlie and Zeus? Like, because they bring it up more than one time. It's not just like a throwaway.
Yeah,
they pay attention to it. But another thing you mentioned was, which I didn't think about it because I've seen that movie so many times since I was a kid. It came out when I was like 5, but the octagon. Yeah, like it 100% takes place in an 8-sided ring.
My studio is also in my garage. Also in my garage is where my dog's food is, and my kid is feeding my dogs. Bless his heart. So yeah, the octagon, which like the UFC took for, I think the UFC, mixed martial arts, as we understand it now, does not exist without No Holds Barred as a movie.
I see it. There's a huge connection.
Before it was mixed martial arts, it was commonly referred to in Brazil as Vale Tudo, or in the United States as NHB, as No Holds Barred. Right?
Yeah. I remember renting early UFC videos, and they sold it 100% as No Holds Barred fighting. and like their opening montage would show like dudes getting punched in the nuts and stuff, you know, because there were no rules. Like you couldn't bite and you couldn't eye gouge. I think that was it. Everything else was open.
It took a while for a guy to get punched in the nuts like 17 times for that sort of thing to be banned.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, and this is where we're going to get real dark for a second, it was Keith Hackney punching the nuts of a guy by the name of Joe Son. And that's where I might be getting it a little bit backwards. But to fast forward about 20 years with Joe Son, he's in prison now for a very, very long time because allegedly he raped a lady to death.
Oh, geez Louise.
Yeah, so don't feel bad for him getting punched in the nuts.
Remember the infamous clip. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember that clip of he like one guy had the other guy almost in some sort of leg lock and he's just wailing on him.
Like some sort of weird crucifix. But it's backwards and he's punching him in the nuts. Don't feel bad for Joe Son. He wasn't a good guy.
Well, he deserved it then.
Yeah, totally. 100%. Yeah. So, but going back to this film, I think this film is far more influential than people will ever give it credit for. I don't think the WWE was making movies prior to this. I mean, at the time they were WWF, right? But they weren't making movies like this previously. Like they weren't making movies where their wrestlers were the stars. And this film not only was Hulk Hogan, who was their biggest star at the time, the star of this film, they had a bad guy that no one had ever seen before. Zeus came out of nowhere, and he had that crazy eye twitch, like he beat up, Randy, Randy, who was Rip's best friend or something, almost kind of mirrors perhaps the relationship with Randy. They were like brothers with the other Randy, which would explain why Randy dressed the way, or why Rip dressed the way that he did. He was heavily influenced by the late great Randy Savage. And then his brother in the film is Randy.
Yeah.
Well, who else? I mean, from that time period, I mean, like, who else could have been that bad guy that Zeus portrayed? I mean, like, it couldn't have been the Honky Tonk Man. It couldn't have been the Ultimate Warrior. It would have had to have been someone like Zeus that we hadn't seen before. The same way that he was the B.A. Baracus. He was the Mr. T of this one. Just the baddest man on the planet that no one had ever heard of.
Yeah. And that's pretty much how they introduce him too. Like they go to that bar to watch the fight, and then just Zeus just shows up, wearing what looked like the top of an inmate. Like he had like a prison number on his chest.
Which again, I kind of want to live in that universe where like scary dudes who just get out of prison still have their prison top, and they're getting into like no holds, fist fights. And imagine if that was like the way that the UFC fights were fought. You could go off the top turnbuckle. There was flying elbows.
Yeah.
You did the double hand, smash on the head. But you also have to move at that speed.
Yeah. I mean, he's wearing like the prison shirt with the prison number, and then he's wearing like spandex pants. So I guess maybe that's just what they had in the Lost and Found on his way out.
Maybe it was the 80s. Prison was a different place.
Yeah. Oh man. But it is like it's an interesting movie because it's like the dude just comes out of the blue. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Then there is comparisons, like you said, between Rocky, because at first, like when Zeus shows up in the helicopter and challenges Hogan, you know, like Clubber Lang does similar stuff. Like he's taunting and challenging Rocky, knowing that he can beat him. You know, so there is some parallels there.
And he killed Rocky's buddy. He killed his coach. He killed the OG Charlie.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and Charlie kind of reminds me of Apollo Creed's coach. Which after Apollo Creed dies, he becomes Rocky's coach. But, you know, there's some similarities there too.
Oh my gosh, it's deep. What if that's in a weird sort of the same, almost a Rick and Morty universe? Like they've gone to something where decisions were made slightly different. And again, I want to see the origin story. I want to know how Zeus ended up there. Like I want to know about Zeus and Charlie and how it went down, like, and what was Charlie's deciding factor that he couldn't be Zeus's his friend anymore when he went to prison.
Yeah, see that's what I was thinking too. Like, did Charlie and Zeus's relationship end when Zeus went to jail? Like, you know, whatever has Charlie so like scarred by it, is that why Zeus went to jail? Like, there's unanswered questions.
And I think that as fans, we deserve them. Like, there's got to be more canon to it than just this one particular movie. They built so much of this story that the rest of the story just needs to be told. I want to know what happened to what happened with Rip afterwards. Did they break up? Did he decide that he was going to try and be more than just friends with the origin story of Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman? Like, you know, because they never, I don't remember he and Joan Severance, who is the actress's name. I looked into her a wee bit.
I don't even know, like, yeah, but I don't remember, dude. What is her? I don't remember her name, and I just watched this movie. I can't remember what her name was in the movie.
She wasn't memorable. I think her only job in this movie was to look a little bit like the reporter from They Live.
Yeah. Well, like, yeah. I can't even remember her name.
Her name.
You know, but what happened to
irrelevant.
What happened to like the other competitors that like Zeus beat? Did they die? Like, what happened? Like, to Lugrank after he choked him out, or Neanderthal after he pulled his hair off of his head. Like, where did they go after that?
Didn't he snap a guy's neck? Didn't he do the?
Yeah. And now in WWE, that's a regular move. Like, that's not a match ender anymore. It's evolved since the 80s.
People have tuned up, I guess. People have gotten better. They've developed stronger spines. It seems weird that a TV executive
bigger, stronger,
from a
faster
major network would simply stand by and watch as his newest big star beat the dog shit and perhaps even paralyzed Rip's little brother. And they didn't film it. Like, they just let it happen. Like, it seems like in the TMZ world, like, there should be someone filming that. Like, even then, you wouldn't, keep the cameras rolling. We're going to see what happens with the B-tapes.
Say that part again.
It seems like even then, in the 1980s, where film was so expensive, like it was more cost prohibitive to make this sort of thing, there would have been someone there with a handy cam that just continued to record, like Zeus breaking shit. Especially
because they were that was part of the show,
or Rip's little brother.
Yeah, I mean, that totally makes sense. Like, they would have filmed that, because, like I said, they were there, like, visiting the set or whatever.
Yeah, they were already filming. Like, they shouldn't have broken down all the cameras.
Right. There should have been something. Even one of the network, like, his little yes man at the bar, he has a little handheld camera. Like, where was that at?
Yeah, it wasn't a gift. It was a gift. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had access to
birthday,
one. They just didn't do shit with it. Losers.
Yeah. Maybe that's why their network was doing so bad.
because there wasn't anyone there to think of these things.
Yep. So you said that No Holds Barred, where in your and Mr. Deeds. Where's your comparison there?
Let me run back to the. It has to do, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, with the corporate prostitute. If I'm the woman who was sent to.
Oh, all right. I see what you're saying, because I've never seen the original. I've only seen the Adam Sandler one. But still, there's the reporter, that the double crosser reporter.
Yeah, and she's there to take the role of that eventually became Winona Ryder. That was like legitimately one of her more fun roles. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Heathers is one of the greatest movies of all time. But
oh man, I don't think you could make that movie today.
Made her likable. So that's, I mean, this film is way more influential than people give it credit for, both with the UFC, with Mr. Deeds, the clothes that he was wearing at the time. We have Under Armour because of this movie.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah.
Except he didn't wear like fancy Under Armour-esque shoes. He always wore cowboy boots for some reason.
Well, okay, so it took Under Armour a while to get into the footwear game. So like, if they had some shit for them to rip off, if No Holds Barred had figured something out with that, then I'm sure Under Armour would have ripped that off as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I don't know how well you can use cowboy boots in the gym.
I don't know. I don't know. And Under Armour stuff isn't very flame resistant, so like it's not like he's got a pair of like cool Ariat work boots. He's wearing like weird, like the only kind of cowboys wouldn't wear those boots. They're cowboy-esque boots. Like there are two. His outfits work for Randy Savage and like male prostitutes. Those are the and coincidentally, like that's who those cowboy boots work for as well. Like nobody is wrangling horses in those boots, and nobody's welding wearing his shirt. So,
or the gloves.
Is it ever? I feel like his outfits in this film should be things that have caught on by now. Like why I'm not wearing one of those shirts is it's despicable.
One of those lace-up shirts.
Oh shit, yeah. With like like arrows and shit. Yeah, why not? Why not? Like t-shirts with tassels. Why not?
Yeah, like you said, it works for Macho Man. Not much else.
Yeah. But would Macho Man have been Macho Man if he came out in a pair of jeans? Like if he was dressed like a regular dude? No, he had to be dressed like a mega pimp on steroids. That's the only way that his outfits worked. Like he came out with a cowboy hat and pink spandex, and not one dude said, I wonder about his masculinity. Nah, dude, he was going home with Miss Elizabeth, and Miss Elizabeth was controlling the other. She was the queen bee in the organization, and they all listened to her. She was his bottom bitch, as Butters would call them.
Say that last part again.
As Butters would say, Miss Elizabeth was his bottom bitch. Butters from South Park, from Butters' Bottom Bitch.
Oh, okay.
Episodes of South Park ever.
Sound was a little weird for a second, but yeah.
It's okay. I got my ducks going off too.
I watched the DVD that they brought out about Macho Man, and like the beginning of it, it just starts off showing his closet and just the amount of gear that man had. Like, I mean, it was impressive.
So on my last deployment to Kuwait, there was a guy that hung out in the gym, and I'd see him in there, and he said he knew Randy from Florida. And he was saying that Randy dressed like that on a regular basis. Randy Savage dressed like Randy Savage to go get milk?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. I
No,
mean,
not at all.
people that like knew Randy Savage like said that he was always a little mentally on edge, you know. And then like later when he was doing a little bit of wrestling stuff later on, when he showed up in like NWA TNA and he was dressed in black from head to toe. If you see videos of him outside of the ring, that's still the way he was dressed in black from head to toe. Like that's what he changed his wardrobe to in the later years. You know, he wasn't wearing the flashy stuff anymore. So seeing him even in the later years, always dressed the same, whether he was outside of the ring or giving an interview or something, it wouldn't surprise me to find out that in his earlier years that he dressed the same no matter where he was at. He was that character, like, you know.
I hope his brother spoke in rhyme as well. If I, for those of you that don't know,
Yeah.
Randy's brother is the genius, not the Jizza of the Wu-Tang Clan. He was also Leaping Lanny Poffo, if I'm not mistaken. Porfo.
Leaping Lanny Poffo.
Yeah, I loved him. Leaping Lanny, the genius.
He would throw frisbees out to the crowd that had poems written on them. Like
that was cool. Like
he's brought out books of poetry. Like he had a good gimmick, man. Like use what you got.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, he was in his brother's shadow, so you got to find your way to get out of that.
How many people knew that he was Randy's brother? I had no clue until documentaries years later.
I knew when I was younger because I found out what Randy Savage's real name was. And so then like I had made that connection and when I was younger. But because I used to be all about like, especially when the internet became a thing, like I used to do all kinds of dirt sheets and stuff like that. I don't do that anymore. But as a teenager, like early teens, I figured that out, like that they were related. I think in WCW, they also mentioned that. Like, because WCW would always get super personal with their storylines. They would always talk about people's like fathers and brothers or whatever.
Do you think that was a Eric Bischoff and part of his way to make the WCW different than WWF, later WWE?
Yeah, I think before like the Attitude Era, you know, because then once the Attitude Era came, it like WWE stopped doing like the cartoonish characters, and then they got like super serious with their storylines, like when Big Show's dad died and that kind of stuff.
Before we dip out, if you don't mind me asking, what got you into wrestling as you do it, as a performer, as a fighter, as a participant in the culture?
Well, like if I ask my dad how long I've been a wrestling fan, he tells me since the womb. And so like as long as I can remember, I've been a fan. And then WWE Tough Enough, when that first became a thing, then that's when I realized that it's not just like movie stars or something, you know. It made it, watching Tough Enough made it where I realized that that's something that I could do, that like the average person can become a wrestler. Like, because watching it on TV, you know, like when I took my son to his first WWE show, the look on his face when he saw Enzo and Big Cass walk out, he was like, "Oh, those are real people." Like he attributed it to like he watches Power Rangers and stuff. Like these are TV stars; they're not real people, you know. So when I realized something I could do, at the time there was definitely no wrestling in Alaska, at least that I remember or worth mentioning. Alaska has a bad wrestling history. Yeah, so once I realized it was something I could do, I found a school in Washington and moved. And that didn't last. I ended up joining the military and stuff. But when I got back into wrestling, like I've always been a fan of like the agile big guys. And so guys like Sheamus and Big Boss Man, especially when he came back in like the SWAT gear, and he'd lost like 70 pounds, it looked like, you know. So I try and not move like a 300 pounder. Like I try and be light on my feet, try and be quick. And so to me, that's like a different element to strive for when I'm wrestling, you know. So seeing guys like that, growing up with guys like Boss Man and One Man Gang and King Kong Bundy, like those are the guys that I was more drawn to as a kid, just because they were different than everybody else. And so that's what I strive to do, is be different. Like when I first started wrestling, no one used the color yellow up here, at least, and not very many people, period, use the color yellow. And so that became my color. Like a lot of my gear is black and yellow. And so I strive to just look different, be different. I started shaving designs into the side of my head, like just to stand out and be different when I wrestle and when I perform.
Yeah, I think that's most of what I've got for you, man. Thank you very, very much for your time. Again, if folks want to see you perform this weekend, where can they do that, and where can they get tickets?
I will be heading to Soldotna on Thursday, so really tomorrow, if people want tickets, they can meet up. They can go online and buy tickets at WrestleProAlaska.com. They can go to Denali Harley Davidson and pick up tickets. 907 Pro Wrestling Academy in Anchorage, they also have tickets for sale. And then, like I said, for myself, tomorrow is really the only day people could meet up, but on Wednesday. But there are tickets still available. First row is sold out. Second row is almost sold out. So a lot of the tickets for sale right now are just general admission tickets. So it's gonna be good, man. This is the biggest wrestling show that Palmer has ever had, and I'm a part of NSA wrestling, but this is way bigger than anything we could have ever done. Like, so Wrestle Pro Alaska is like the evolution of Alaska wrestling. And so the show that we're about to have on Saturday, like I said, it's Alaska wrestling history. So it's history in the making. It's going to be awesome.
There you have it. If you can make it out to Palmer, awesome. Come out on Friday night to Friday night, Soldotna in the All-American Training Center. Tickets in Soldotna are available at 5150 Vapes. They're also available at the Duck Inn. Now, the headlining fighters, Seth Stacy, Alton Prince, Sean Whitmore, and Doug McFresh. Those fighters all have tickets that you can buy them from the fighters directly as well for the Friday night show, as well as All-American Training Center. So, man, thank you, Brody. Thank you very, very much for your time. Thank you very, very much for your energy. Thank you for watching the film. I appreciate it.
Of course. You know, if you want to do like movie reviews in the future, I am a movie buff. So I love watching movies, especially ones I haven't seen before or ones that I'm into that other people may not, you know, introducing people to new films. So it's a cool aspect outside of wrestling.
Okay. That sounds great. Brody, I appreciate your time and energy, my man. I look forward to seeing you when you get to town.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Later.